Hello and welcome to another episode of SoFly. We are back recording another episode. Today we're talking about BC, which is cool because BC's awesome. We've got myself, Mitch. We've got, of course, Aldo.
Hey, everybody.
And we've got Yilma.
Hello.
And very excited to have a special guest on the show. Gill Steele is a multi-species angler born and raised in North Vancouver, British Columbia. She's got a BA in environmental geography and studied fish, wildlife, and recreation. She's also the vice president for the Steelhead Society of British Columbia, whose mandate is protecting wild steelhead populations and their river systems in the great province of BC. And she's also one of the founding members of the BC Women's Fly Fishing Group, which looks to promote the networking of female fly anglers in BC. Fishing has always been a really big part of Jill's life. In fact, her parents actually met at a fishing lodge, which is really cool, West Coast Fishing Lodge to be exact. And they went on to purchase a tackle store, High Water Tackle, where Gill worked in high school. And I think that's where you guys all met, right?
That's right.
Gill is well-versed in the ways of fly fishing and gear fishing, learning all she could from her father over the years. She's fished all over her home province, which we're going to talk about today. Of course, trout, salmon, steelhead are the common species of choice for Gill. She's a very busy woman, one heck of a great angler with a passion for her province, but today she's on SoFly. Gill, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited.
I keep reading your name Gill in my head when I read G-I-L, which is kind of cool because it's very fishy, you know.
And we know Gill.
I always joke with my dad that he did that on purpose.
Yeah, it's cool.
No, maybe he did.
Cool name.
Yeah, maybe he did.
How's things in British Columbia for you today? I see you're in the shop.
I am. I'm in the shop working today. It was a little bit slower today, but that's, pretty common for spring break time of year. It's been super nice, so people are kind of out and about. But overall, it's good. It's a fun time of year. We're kind of, for where we are right now, kind of on the cusp of a bunch of different things. So it's kind of a cool time where people are getting excited about spring season, but people are still stoked on steelhead fishing. So there's just a lot. And I like this time of year too, because it just every day gets a little bit busier. People start getting more excited about things. So it's actually a nice time of year.
This is the best time of year. I think Aldo and Yilma are going to get sick of me saying this, but I'm really excited for this time of year, spring and summer. I'm always talking about how I'm excited for the next season, but this is the best time of year because it's got all the great stuff coming, you know, like trout's opening up soon. You can get some steelhead action in. Mm-hmm. What's the fishing like for you right now in BC? Like, have you been fishing at all lately? Yeah,
I've been fishing actually quite a bit, and I admittedly I gear fish a lot for steelhead around here. I do fly fish for them as well, but this time of year, especially on some of our like really coastal streams, gear fishing is kind of a little bit easier for it that way, but I've been out steelhead fishing quite a bit over the last little while. Like I said, very lucky to have kind of lots of opportunities around here, and I was out earlier this week, did pretty well for myself, so no complaints at all.
Sick.
Nice.
That's rad. Yeah, our fishing season we're trying to line this podcast up for when some awesome content from Fishing BC with us in it that Joel shot, and you're in it too, Jill.
It looks great.
Coming out.
I got some sneak peeks. Sorry.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Oh, man.
Because I had to re-record with him, so he showed me some sneak peeks.
I see. Yeah, so it's the, for us right now while we're recording, it's the middle of March, but this, I think, we're trying to line this up for the end of April or May when it comes out. So for us, our season hasn't opened yet. So we're just like waiting because it opens at the end of April.
Just itching.
Just itching.
Yeah. Big time.
You guys still have snow?
time.
Like, sorry. It's still frozen?
Yeah.
There's a storm coming in tomorrow.
There's too much snow here right now. We didn't have a winter, and then all of a sudden it was like spring is next week, and we got winter all over the place. It sucks. I hate it.
Yeah, see, that's the nice thing about the West Coast. Yeah, I'm looking outside. It's like sunny out. It's like 11 degrees. I can go anywhere tomorrow I wanted to. Like, really. We're lucky that way, though.
That's pretty wicked. Yeah,
for sure.
No, for sure. That is very true. So you guys actually all met when you were at the shop, right? Like, you guys, although Yilma, you guys flew in.
You were stop number one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
We flew in, Joel picked us up, and we went straight to High Water Tackle and met you. And we picked, you chatted flies and picked flies and shop, a beautiful shop in a really cool neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Then we got brunch after around the corner. It was perfect.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I know, and you guys came in with Joel, and I've been very lucky to know Joel. He was our photographer on a Fishing BC shoot, I guess, back a year and a half before or so, something like that. We just like instantly clicked, and he was so awesome. And I'm so glad you guys came out with him, because every time he messages me, he's like, "Hey, I got these guys coming out," and I'm like, "Bring them in, let's go."
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Is high water tackle kind of? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jan.
I just want to say, I know Aldo said it's beautiful, but it is a really wonderful looking shop. I did not want to leave when I got there. Yeah. Absolutely.
It was, we were trying to, I think Yilma was trying to figure out, those like hand-carved wooden nets you have?
Yes.
He was trying to figure out if it would fit in our suitcase, because those were so beautiful. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is High Water kind of like a pretty popular store in that area? Like, I don't know the landscape. I've never been to that area, but
yeah, our fishing shops here, I'm going to speak kind of towards all of them, because a lot of the ones that are in the Lower Mainland and Vancouver kind of area have all kind of been established for quite a while, and we all kind of like own our own little areas.
Right.
And so our shop here, my dad had this for I guess we'd be on like 38 years now. And so it's been pretty established here. And I mean, we kind of, there's no shop in Squamish where you guys were fishing when you were here. So we kind of like touch that whole corridor, and we're kind of up on the North Shore here and in our own little pocket. But we're pretty, we've been around for a while. We do everything. We sell a lot of saltwater ocean stuff, lots of fly stuff, lots of steelhead. We got 2 steelhead streams kind of on either side of us here within 10-minute drive. So we do a lot of that. So I'd like to say that we're pretty popular that way.
And do you see more of one of the other, fly or gear?
It totally depends on the time of year. Like because we're such a kind of big like overcasting umbrella shop, it definitely depends. This time of year we see a lot of gear guys out fishing for steelhead, but then also we have a very big following for char, bull trout, resident rainbow, cutthroat that's just getting started as all the salmon birds start to pop. So we see a lot of fly anglers this time of year. Absolutely, lots of guys fly fish for steelhead as well, depending on where they are, but it really kind of just depends on the month. And then through the summertime, we sell a lot of like saltwater trolling gear. I mean, that's a huge part of our kind of local.
Oh, true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Mm-hmm. Now, so you see both sides of like the fishing world, the gear and the fly. Who is nerdier? Who geeks out more on gear and goes harder at the gear?
Oh, good question.
I've always wondered this, because like I see a lot of gear people that are like they've got some stacked.
Oh yeah.
It kind of depends. I'd like to say, who's like nerdiest? I would say probably fly anglers are nerdiest, because I think that's just like a natural, like you get into it, you get into like, the entomology parts of it. It's like very easy to go that deep. I will joke that like steelhead gear anglers, we always laugh, are like the cheapest people ever.
Right.
Like they'll bring up like a pack of hooks and they'll be like, this is expensive. Well, mind you, the guy who's like, outfitting his ocean boat just spent like $800 on gas, and he doesn't care what anything costs.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But geeky, like definitely kind of the fly trout guys. And I fall into that category myself. I could geek out at like trout fly fishing for days. Like it would never end.
Oh, great. Well, we'll get to that. Later. It's funny because in Ontario, like the fly shop here caters to centerpin anglers as well, and those anglers are not cheap at all.
No,
they're like dropping like $800, $900 on a reel alone. So it's pretty
custom built rods.
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, that's true.
So
it's
cool.
That still exists here, but guys are like very like they'll get like a really nice setup, and then they'll complain about all the small terminal stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, okay.
What are you talking? Fluorocarbon.
Literally, like that's it. Like, you're holding a $900 reel. Like, you're worried
about
the
hooks. You're good.
Spool of line.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, why don't we just kind of go back to the beginning of your fishing life before we talk about BC and more of the details. But how did you start fishing? How did it begin? You mentioned, obviously off the top that your parents were pretty into it.
Yeah.
From the beginning. So how did it?
So my dad's always been. I mean, he was just an angler. He just had like a natural just drive towards it. That started when he was a kid. Started from my grandfather and stuff like that. And so he went to go work at a fishing lodge on the West Coast there when he was in his 20s, and he became the head guide there. Kind of West Coast salmon fishing, kind of that classic story. My mom, who was from the interior part of the province, she went to find some work in the summertime one year, you know, romanticized love story, like lodge life, fell in love, blah, 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 blah. And so that's where their story started. And then,
that's so cool. Like they met at the lodge and then like just fell in love, ended up getting married, all like everything. That's so cool.
Like it's crazy. And I think so when I always joke and I say it's literally in my blood, like I was born into it. And my dad was offered the lodge back in the day, but he didn't want to take the lodge over. So instead he came home to my mom one day and he's like, I bought a tackle store. And
that's cool.
Sorry, something just...
Oh, the fly shop ghost.
Fly shop ghost.
Something just fell off the wall.
It's an actual fly shop ghost. Amazing.
Yeah, wow.
I love it.
And came home and he's like, I bought a tackle shop. And my mom's like, okay.
Surprise.
And, yes, really. And then my mom kind of did the back end of it. So she did all the payroll, all the accounting stuff, because she's a kind of a bookkeeper. And then my dad just kind of lived out his dream, you know, running a small shop in North Van, and kind of just grew from there. And 38 years later, I mean, here it is.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And then so when we were kids, like everything, we could not go camping or any vacation that we did.
Yeah.
Always revolved around a lake, a river, a stream, some sort of destination that way. So we didn't go to Disneyland when we were kids, but we certainly went to a lot of really cool places in BC. So
yeah, Disneyland's not what all it cracked up to be. Sorry, Mitch.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's cool. Yeah, Disneyland, yeah. I mean, like, you got to go, and so that's kind of how you got into fishing. Then you were just exposed to all these amazing fishing places.
Yeah, and one thing I like to repeat this story because I tell people nowadays a lot, you know, as kids, and especially as a dad, because I have a sister, so, you know, a very, you know, eager fisherman or fisher person that was into it. We were never forced as kids to do it. We were never expected to like it. We were never... you know, forced into a boat to sit there. And my dad always joked that when we were younger, you know, to get like little girls, you know, you get out in the boat and he like rows you out in the lake all the way, and you get about like, you know, 20 minutes out there and you're like, I'm bored or I gotta pee or something. And my dad would just go like, okay, and he'd row us back in, and, you know, never argued with us, never said like, shut up and sit down. And so we always had that choice, and so we were always kind of given the opportunity to like it.
Yeah.
We were never forced to like it. We were never expected to do it. And if we didn't want to, we didn't have to. But he always gave us the option. And then, so the older we got, you know, the more time we'd spend out there, we'd start to like it. I took to it more than my sister did. She still fishes with me and we still fish a lot. But I kind of just grew into it. And I repeat that because I say to parents, you know, like, you can like fishing as much as you want, but your kids might not like it. And as soon as you force them, it's going to become that thing that they have to do with that, as opposed to they want to do with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good
That's
point.
why I did so bad at school. It's because I was forced to do it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I get that, man. I feel that. It's a good thing. Listen up, parents. You know, like, your kids probably, foster a love for fishing rather than like force them to like try to like it, right?
Yeah. And then we were just like, if we expressed interest in it, then my dad's like, yeah, for sure, let's go. He used to actually take me out of school when I was younger to go salmon fishing during the week. And my mom would
jealous.
She would sign the sick notes for me.
That's sick. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
I want a mom
do you
like
remember
that.
do you remember what your first fish on the fly was? Or on I guess on the fly.
Yeah, so I was also very lucky because when we were younger, we have a very popular trout stream, a couple hours out of Vancouver, very well known for wild trout. It's actually the top part of the Skagit system, out of Washington State, the above part that goes on the top part of the lake there, and I mean it's pretty well known, especially around here, for like its wild trout populations. And my earliest memories are fly fishing there, and that's where I learned. And I was very fortunate to have learned there because it's a special place to a lot of people. But those are my like youngest memories that I can consciously think of. Pretty much since I could like kind of follow all day with my dad. Like as soon as I could walk, and probably about that kind of 8 years old kind of thing where I could spend all day out there. Certainly when we were younger, I mean, we were in the boat fly fishing in lakes, from like 3 on, but actively like out there doing it, I would say probably that kind of 7, 8 years old where I was following around. And then
it's pretty young.
Yeah. And then I probably had a fly casting lesson, I always joke, every single day since then, whether I wanted it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, because exactly. Yeah,
because Dad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's teaching you kind of showing you the ropes as you go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So, okay, you're based in Vancouver, or I guess North Vancouver, right? Where do you primarily fish? Is it around that area, Squamish?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in Squamish. I absolutely love there. Even though I, don't live in that kind of suburb city, I always joke that I'm like a local there. Because I definitely spend a lot of time up there because it is really like a 365, other than maybe midsummer.
Okay.
I mean, steelhead fishing there now. I was there like 2 days ago.
Okay.
Steelhead fishing, and then kind of through that spring trout fishery. The summer, like that July, August is really the only time where it's maybe not that great. But
Right.
Starting in August this year, I mean, we're going to get salmon running up there from August right through to like Christmas. And then the other, like right now also, if you're not steelhead fishing, I fly fish a lot for char and stuff up there as well, like bull trout. Because I mean, you can get bull trout like 5, 6 to 8 pounds up there. So that's another thing that I do. So I spend a lot of time up there. The other direction, if you were head out to kind of Chilliwack, kind of the same distance, kind of east, there's another, some more steelhead streams out there, and then also lots of trout fishing as well.
Wow.
What's the
That's
furthest
super crazy.
north you've ever been in BC?
In the probably like in this province, like Prince Rupert area as
Right.
well, which is probably still only like 2/3 the way up the province.
Yeah.
Right. It's huge, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Even when you're like up north in like Skeena country fishing for steelhead, it says Alaska is still 700 kilometers away.
Jeez.
Wow, yeah.
Like you're still
Yeah.
that far away.
Far
Still that
away,
far
yeah.
out, yeah.
Never ends,
Yeah.
But and I've been up Fort St. John way, which is kind of north, the other direction, more east. But I haven't been like north, like Yukon border, BC.
Right.
Yeah.
It is pretty wild that the province goes up there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's so much.
it's hard to argue, like, even just driving to Squamish is pretty awesome, and seeing, like, Howe Sound, and, I mean, I think that drive broke Yilma's brain.
Oh, it did. It was like Avatar. I've never seen anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is Canada?
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah.
And so many opportunities just right downtown, like Squamish, like, literally Joel's backyard is, an access point to the river there, and, that's to your point, like, Yilma's, the first fish he caught on the trip was a bull trout,
Yeah.
not a 5-minute walk from Joel's house. So how awesome is that for access?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Like Squamish specifically, I mean, it's and if you're into like any other sport, biking, skiing, snowboarding, climbing, kites, or like, it's crazy up there what you can do. It's definitely like a huge recreational focal point, but the fishing up there is awesome. Like I said, I spend a ton of time up there.
Cool.
I didn't know the salmon were running like that long.
Yeah, neither did I.
I basically know. I have no idea about BC. I've
Yeah.
never been there. I'm just like, what's happening over there? I didn't know salmon were running like that whole year almost.
Yeah, and you guys came in October. So
October,
you're
yeah.
like right at the height of kind of the coho, like chum fishery, maybe at the beginning of chum, but right in the height of coho. Every second year on the south coast here, we get a pink salmon run.
Right.
So it's a 2-year cycle. So we have those coming this summer, and those will start as early as August in there as well.
Wow.
So you can fish for salmon depending on what the water levels are at that time. You can fish for salmon starting in August. The pinks will run through September. Then you'll get coho in there. Then you'll get chum in there as well. And the coho will run technically right through till January. In some,
Wow.
Did you guys fish the Checkmas when you were there too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did
So
we?
the coho, they kind of have a later push. So right through January.
Can't
catch
remember.
coho.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
one? Remind me of the Checkmas again, just so I.
It was a smaller one, I think.
Okay.
I think you guys fished it.
Yeah, no, we definitely did. Yilma, it was like with that big, there was like that big boulder wall.
Oh,
whatever.
that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, we did.
It was cool. I mean, when we got there, it was kind of interesting in a way. Like in everything I know, it was my first trip to Vancouver, BC at all, and everything you read is like rain. It's just rain. It's constant rain, and
Yeah.
we got there and it was like a 6-week heat wave.
It
was like
yeah.
It was like 30 degrees when we were fishing. I was in a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was like hot, like very, very hot. So yeah, we didn't actually connect with the coho, unfortunately, just because I guess the run hadn't pushed in yet. Yeah, we got into a lot of bull trout, and that was pretty rad. We saw a lot of coho jumping, which was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But the Squamish River especially was so stained.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But man, it was beautiful. Yeah, I would love to come back when in better conditions and get a coho.
I mean, the October heat wave's not like a normal thing for sure.
No, for sure. I didn't think it was.
Yeah. Well, it was all over the news. I mean, even over here seeing it, I was like, wow.
I packed all these sweaters, and I was just like, I should have packed more T-shirts, I guess.
Some swimming trunks. So, and then there's, of course, Steelhead, as you mentioned, and you said that you're the vice president over at the Steelhead Society of British Columbia. So, yeah, like, what is the Steelhead situation? Because I know over here I hear a lot of different stories about Steelhead this in BC, and what is kind of the, in your area, the lay of the land with Steelhead? How are they doing?
I would say overall they're not doing well. And that's, I think, Steelhead here are kind of that classic, like, death by 1,000 cuts in terms of like resource use in terms of, logging, mining, a lot of those kinds of just extraction features and a lot of the, tributary streams and things like that. We're also dealing with certain issues in certain areas with user group conflicts and things like that. That's a major one in the Fraser locally as well. Also, the thing that kind of puts Steelhead at a bit of an odds, and I'm not sure how they're managed back on the East Coast, but Steelhead here, because essentially we have, our provincial government, just like you guys do, and then the federal government as well. Yeah. Federal government manages all the salmon in BC. So they're in charge of all the salmon species over here. Steelhead were managed at one time by the federal government, and then they're currently managed by the provincial government. But of course, because they transcend that freshwater saltwater boundary, they become a bit of a problem between who's in charge of what and when. And so you get into all these issues where you have regulations trying to follow and trying to protect steelhead that are kind of crossing these boundaries, and then they get kind of shuffled in this like, it's your problem, our problem kind of thing. And that's been going back and forth for many, many years. That's certainly not a new issue. But what happens is you never really get like a full strategy implemented for them. And so they've kind of come at the guise of different governments that come in, different strategies for protecting them, different ideas about who and when and what and who's responsible. And so they've really fallen through the cracks in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Also, some of their run timings coincide with salmon runs, which are at the mercy of, recreational, commercial, and First Nations fisheries as well. So you have all these kind of different things, and they just kind of get lost kind of in the sauce there. And of course, salmon fisheries become the big focal point here on BC, and you see that in the news a lot. But steelhead really just kind of fall through the cracks in a lot of ways. And so, our goal specifically is to protect wild steelhead populations, because we also have, steelhead hatcheries here, and there's different ideas about if, hatchery fish can actually replenish wild populations, and that's a huge discussion as well here that went on for years. But overall, not doing well. There's certain places though that are seeing, stable numbers, and then there's other ones that have just dropped significantly, almost to nothing. And within the last, I would say probably 15 years, more commonly in the last 10 years, we've seen significant populations drop almost to nothing. And trying to figure out the exact source of that has become just a continuing battle of, I don't want to say who's to blame, but ultimately what's the reason and how do we fix?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of what I've been hearing too. Yeah. That's steelhead.
Same.
And then of course, the heat wave with the salmon. Like, has the heat wave thing? It's not common, but is kind of. Have you noticed more of that sort of stuff going on too? Like the salmon are they having like the similar pressures?
Yeah.
Salmon fishery?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hear a lot, especially in regards to the Fraser, in terms of sockeye and water temperatures, especially because there's certain, because sockeye migrate in that kind of July, August, September window, water temperature becomes a massive factor in terms of survival rates. Combined with like the Big Bar landslide that I'm sure you've heard of on the Fraser, where there's that huge landslide and they can't get up. That created a lot of issues as well between fish sitting in water that was too warm when they should have already been traveled through there. Right. That we do see in steelhead, but not necessarily to the same extent. I mean, certainly steelhead would have to travel through that landslide as well to access some of those upper watersheds on the Fraser. Where we do start to see issues with steelhead a lot is in some of those smaller tributary streams where you start to see issues with, and salmon, siltation in the rivers because of logging. So the Squamish system actually is a great example. So it's extremely flashy now. And I mean, there's been extensive logging in the upper watersheds, which make it, if it rains at all, man, that thing goes out in a heartbeat. It used to take a lot longer for it to go, and it would recover a lot faster. And now we see a lot of silt and a lot of these big sandbars and, lack of essentially structure and siltation over eggs when that didn't happen as frequently as it had before.
It's, I guess as, people coming from the fly fishing community, you sometimes forget that steelhead plays second fiddle to salmon. But it shouldn't be any surprise. Like, I mean, even in the Great Lakes fishery around here, which of course, for some reason stocked Pacific salmon in the Great Lakes or whatever. Like, they also, play second fiddle here as well. Like the Great Lakes steelhead. We see that is a species that, has can naturalize and has naturalized in a lot of these rivers and turned into, like a self-sustaining population. Like a lot of the Ontario tributaries, especially west of Toronto, haven't been stocked in years. And where am I going with this? It's just interesting to hear the same thing, I guess, about the West Coast and the wild steelhead. That it's still, such a special fish is seen as maybe lesser than or a second thought.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think when we talk about government and management as well, because a lot of their kind of policies are based on like monetary values and things like that. Salmon, when you have tourism coming in and you have people that are going to salmon lodges and things like that, you can really calculate those monetary values a lot easier. And so it's a lot bigger of a number that they can use kind of as a bargaining chip almost. And so it carries, I want to say, a little bit more weight in that regard. Of course, like BC West Coast salmon fishing, that's here. I'm not surprised that steelhead kind of take that second turn. But I mean, when you think about it from the fly fishing world, I mean, BC steelhead, especially up in the north, the summer runs in the Skeena region and stuff. I mean, that's world renowned. That's not just like here. That's people come from, all over the world to travel here for weeks on end and spend a lot of time and a lot of money here. But it's not necessarily calculated in that same way. And because it's not, I mean, wild steelhead you can't retain in the province. So it's a non-consumptive fishery as well. So it's a little bit harder to calculate that, and actually seeing, the benefits of that kind of tourism and that kind of industry driver is just harder to have a number to present out to the world.
For sure. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, there's so many different things to kind of balance. I mean, we talk about this stuff all the time on the show because it's like not unique to any one place. Obviously, there's like fisheries are across the world are up against all kinds of stuff. But are you hopeful?
I am. I think there's enough people out there, and there's enough of I want to say us as a collective that really care and that are really trying, that I think that we will see, change at some point. My only worry is that some of these really big systems that we've seen just with catastrophic losses may not be recovered to the times, of course, that they once were. But I think that we are starting to recognize some of the failures that we've had in the past and starting to address them and moving forward. So it might not be a full recovery, but if we can at least stop the bleed and start to kind of just think about management strategies, also coming from a place of various user groups working together as opposed to be pitted against one another,
Right.
I think is a huge factor. I mean, here in BC, you tend to hear arguments between what First Nations intentions are and what recreational anglers' intentions are. And I think for the most part, they're aligned, but they get pitted against each other when the government comes in and decides to be like, you get this and you get this. And so I think ultimately we all want the same thing, but it becomes very difficult to navigate that when you have a governing body that's essentially dividing things and saying that, you guys want different things, when it's like, I don't think we actually do.
Yeah, I think we all.
we all just want the fish to be good.
Yeah, I think we all just want the fish to be healthy, happy.
Yeah.
And coming
Absolutely.
back.
And I think that there's been examples, especially on the west coast of Vancouver Island, where they've actually kicked the government to the curb, and they have working groups that represent all different user groups, and when they talk, and they're actually getting things done. And it's funny how I'm not an anti-government person, but if you just remove the person that's kind of creating the division, that things actually start getting done. So I think that there's a way forward, and I think we're going to see a lot more kind of collaborative groups coming together to kind of make differences or make changes that actually have, weight to them.
Little fishing vigilante squad.
Yeah, or
Yeah, I mean the community. I mean, we see it all the time. Again, across all kinds of places where the government can get in its own way and kind of cause more problems than solve things, and or just be like, it's not worth the effort or whatever. It's like, what's left are all the anglers and all the people that want to use the resource, and they're like, well, it's still, what are we going to do? So, and to see a community just come together and be like, you know what, take it into their own hands and come together, that's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, collaboration's a good point too. Especially when it comes to working with Indigenous communities, because you're right. I think the dominant, no, I mean not dominant, but a narrative when I was fishing for Atlantic salmon was to your point, one against the other one, and that's not actually the case. No. When you're on the ground, it's maybe with a few individuals, but that doesn't mean the whole.
Yeah. But you're right. The narrative kind of gets spotted that way, and then it becomes, a bit of a clickbait in a lot of ways, because it makes one sound like they're arguing against the other. But then when you start looking at the bottom line, everybody wants the same thing, and it's very clear.
River health,
Yeah. So, I think I'm optimistic moving forward, because I think that we will start to kind of see those things. The only other thing here in BC, and because I've also been quite involved in some of the salmon politics around here too. I mean, our West Coast fisheries are managed back east, back over where you are, and sometimes there's a disconnect between what's actually happening here on the ground and getting managed back east. And there's a big argument for some kind of removing fisheries from the government, just let it be its own thing. Because the other thing too is you get a good government in there that is gung-ho, and then 4 years later it changes, and then all the work that you did gets thrown out the window. So that gets kind of frustrated. But I mean,
it must be so
totally frustrating. And we know that 4 years in terms of river health isn't really that long. It takes a long time to not regrow, but get those numbers back. It doesn't happen in 4 years. It takes decades.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So,
because I'm ignorant, the Steelhead Society of BC, the protecting wild steelhead populations, obviously. So I guess it's a constant, tireless, advocacy. I guess probably.
Yeah, for sure. And we COVID obviously created some harder times on everybody in terms of kind of keeping up to date with projects and stuff. But essentially we fund projects directly related to wild steelhead. So lots of enhancement projects. We've funded in the past river swims or population assessments, a lot of habitat work, a lot of work specific to some of the smaller streams locally as well. There's a big push in terms of supporting some of the northern systems. Also, investing in kind of land trusts and investing in essentially zoning off property from development and things like that as well. A lot of education also in terms of just what wild steelhead mean to BC, sitting on boards and tables and meetings and stuff like that as well. So, I mean, the Steelhead Society is on like 53 years now of service, and I mean, a lot of great steelheaders and anglers that are really concerned about the fish themselves. And the Steelhead Society, we always say, like, fish first. I mean, we're all anglers on the board for the most part, but if we have to close something or make a decision that means that we can't fish for them, but they can continue on and that's going to protect those fish, then it's a fish first idea.
Oh, cool. Fish first.
Really
Love
cool.
it.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, so there's lots of salmon, steelhead, and things going on. And what is your favorite sort of thing to go and do? What are you looking forward to most in terms of fishing? Is it trout?
I love trout fishing. I always joke because everybody laughs at me because I love steelhead fishing. Don't get me wrong. Like,
of course.
My kiss, whether it's, river run or just trout, like, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I love steelhead fishing and I go every day of the week, but trout fishing, like, just really gets me going, especially like river fly fishing. And I think that comes from when I was younger learning and some of those really early memories that I was talking about. Summertime dry fly fishing for trout, whether they're 12-inch trout or like 4-pound rainbows, like, that gets me going, this time of year I get like a little tidbit of it because there's a lot of like coastal cutthroat fishing as the fry start popping. So I beach fish a lot. And that also is another thing. And I could go do that all day, every day.
Beach fish for cutthroats.
Wow.
Like in the saltwater.
Oh man,
wild.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
And for me, that's like right now, like the next couple weeks, I've already kind of going through my little, like, here's the dorky part. I go through my diaries that I keep of tides and wind and all that stuff. And
awesome. That's essential.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I go through and I like examine. I'm like, oh, we're getting close to, some of my better days. And
that's awesome.
And that's how you catch fish.
And like that really, I love that fishery. And you're either going to go and you're going to catch nothing, or you're going to go there and be super frustrated and catch nothing and see them, or you're going to go there and you're going to have like an awesome day. And I just, I live for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a wild fishery. Yeah. Like coastal cutties. I didn't even know that was like
CC action. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like
CC.
Big in like Puget Sound and Washington State as well. Like they have unreal cutthroat fishing, and you can do it here. Like I can walk down like 5 minutes from my house and go down and do it. It's awesome.
It's awesome.
Dang, that's so
awesome.
Cool.
This is a weird thing to say, but like I didn't get the sense until we went, because we ended up going to Kamloops on our trip.
Right.
Kamloops?
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't get the sense of the. I know this sounds insane because it's not true, but like I'm like, are there trout in this part of BC like that aren't bull trout? I was like. And then, I mean, I'm obviously wrong, but it's just funny. It was like a funny feeling I got because you get so obsessed with trying to catch migratory fish that you kind of forget that
trout.
Summertime dry flies. Like, oh my god, in the mountains.
I think that's actually a common thing because especially in Vancouver here, right? A lot of the tourism that comes here, it's salmon, summertime. You're thinking that's what a lot of people do. People beach fish for salmon. We talk about salmon all the time. But we have an extremely healthy and very populous like trout fishery here right on the West Coast. I mean, cutthroat, we get, anadromous coastal cutthroat here that are unbelievably aggressive. We also get resident cutthroat as well. And of course our char, which are both like resident and anadromous as well. But we also get, resident rainbows. Any of the streams around here have resident rainbows. And that's probably, a bit of a residualized byproduct of the steelhead fishery for sure. But I mean, there's trout fishing everywhere. Squamish Head, like the Cheakamus specifically, very healthy trout population.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we did get into a few, but rainbows is bycatch, and there was actually a gentleman on the river, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just trout fishing. I'm not." He's having a great time catching rainbows and cutties and stuff. So I thought it was pretty cool.
He's like, guys, I got them.
Does BC have like a warm water fishery at all?
We do actually. If you were to keep going from Kamloops and you kept going into the interior to Kelowna, so another couple hours away, I mean, there's a very growing, and I will say here, bass and some of those coarse fish species are becoming a lot more popular. If you go to Kelowna and kind of the dead center of the southern part of the province, so if you were to just go like Vancouver and just draw lines straight east, you'd get to kind of that Kelowna area and stuff. I mean, there's a huge bass fishery in there now, like smallmouth and largemouth.
Wild.
And even here,
yeah, I always wondered that.
Even down here, I mean, that like I have a whole bass fishing section over there now, and I mean, we're probably the farthest shop away from any bass fishing. But in the Lower Mainland, like probably 20 minutes from here, I mean, there's bass in largemouth bass in a lot of the lakes. All the golf courses have them now.
Wow.
It's
just like
become
Florida.
huge now.
Yeah.
I've bass fished around here lots.
Oh, I love it.
I've fly fished for them, gear fished for them. It's, I mean, it's not like warm water, but there's some like
kind of cool.
Very cool. Yeah, music to my ears.
Cold water bass.
Yeah, it's great.
Bass, I think they're trout. It's like eating dries and stuff.
Bass eating.
But if you go to the interior, it's definitely more of that like warmer water stuff for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wondered. Like,
that,
you think BC and like, I think a lot of people think this. I mean, this is what my perception is: cold water fisheries. So I'm like, yeah, bass. I wonder. Cool.
Well, we're starting to see more smallies and stuff in some of our lakes, which is actually kind of scary in a lot of ways.
Concerning, yeah,
because they will survive.
Yeah,
and they will do a lot better.
They will damage. Yeah, they'll eat everything.
Water. They showed up in one of the lakes out in the Fraser Valley, and they've just taken to that lake. And there's a couple like species that are endemic to those watersheds as well, like some of the sculpins and some of the like little footed, and they're very concerned about that because the smallies can actually like they'll live and they'll
eradicate them.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Where the largemouth kind of are in like a lot of our sloughs. They're in the golf course ponds. They're kind of like limited more. But those are starting to show up in way more places than they ever have, and a lot of that is because it's becoming so popular here. People are like releasing them, and they think that there is a lot of like active illegal stalking.
Oh shit!
Oh no! Oh my god! Yeah. What are people doing? Like, why would you ever do that? Like why would you do that? Like, don't mess with nature.
Hubris.
Good lord!
Yeah.
I mean, smallies like they kind of are in a way. I mean, they like lake trouty kind of water. Deep cold water. They like rocky shoals. So it's like it kind of makes sense that they would do well there. Like that is kind of scary.
It is funny though, because I did a presentation a couple years ago for the Invasive Species Council of BC actually, and they were asking me about recreational fishing, and I did this presentation. So I was doing a bit more background research, and I mean, bass, especially in the interior part of the province, in those more warm water areas, they've been here since like the 50s. Like, this is not new necessarily. And more so like locally, like in the Vancouver area, they're expanding for sure. And I think that is the popularity in the last 5 years has skyrocketed. But also we kind of have this habit here of fishing over species or having species that are introduced, just like you guys, I'm sure as well, that get a lot of traction and then just kind of like are like, they're here, we might as well fish for them. Like brown trout's another thing. We have like very few brown trout streams, but on Vancouver Island there's brown trout, and I mean that's just like a totally accepted. Like, it's good, it's fine.
Yeah, that's weird. Brown trout. Yeah, what a random place for a brown trout to be. Yeah. Yeah,
tell me in though.
Yeah, they must be. They're lost. Yeah, brown trout. I mean, they're lost. I love brown trout, but
they're lost.
I mean, I love bass too, but if they're
if they're going to eat
entire lake of trout,
I mean, they're invasive in northern Ontario too. So
right,
yeah, they are.
But as much as we love fishing for them, there,
pretty resilient. Go ahead, Aldo.
Oh, I was going to say I was interested to just because we're already at 45 minutes and we kind of tend to cap this at an hour.
Oh shit! Already?
That's
what happens when you're having fun. Sorry.
That's right. Just
cliches, Joe. I love it. The book of cliches. I just wanted to chat a little bit about the BC Women's Fly Fishing Group.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're one of the founding members, and what that's all about, and yeah, I guess that is the question.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah,
How long has it been around? You're a founding member. When did that happen? And,
Yeah. So I mean,
tell us about that.
I mean, like, female or like women's fly fishing groups certainly have been around for a while, and we're seeing a lot of growth, especially in the U.S. There's some like United Women on the Fly. There's some massive women's groups that are like honestly great like springboards to kind of get smaller groups going. But essentially, how it started is my partner, he used to be a guide in Haida Gwaii, and one of his best friends was also a guide up there. And essentially, they would go off in the summertime. So from May through till like end of August, they'd be gone all summer, guiding up in the Charlottes. And so one day, my partner, his friend said to me, like, oh, you know, my girlfriend, like, she's here, she loves fishing, and she's also in the fishing industry as well. And she's actually when we did that Fishing BC shoot with Joel, she was the other, Catherine, she was the other lady that was fishing with me. And essentially, he said, like, you know, you guys are kind of in the same boat all summer, you both like trout fishing, you know, maybe you guys could just, like, hang out or something. And so I'm like, okay, you know, I know who she is, but I didn't know her personally. And then the boys were away like all summer. We went trout fishing and we just like clicked, and we had this like really great friendship just off the bat. And one thing that was really nice was, you know, we were fishing and it was just very easy, and we were very, you know, comfortable. And I mean, we didn't really know each other at that point either. And we had kind of fished together all summer, and I was like, you know what, like, this is really nice. You know, I've fished with my partner. I fished with other, you know, for the most part, male friends, because that's who my fishing people were. But I said, this is really nice. And, you know, I'm sure that there's, you know, a lot of other women out there that would love to just be able to connect, or maybe don't feel comfortable going with a guy, or maybe they don't have somebody in their life that, you know, they're able to go fishing with, or just knows the ropes. So, you know, and I wish everybody could have this, because we're laughing, having a great time. It was not as competitive. If I fish with my partner, him and I'm like, I want to catch way more fish than him. But when I fish with her, I'm just like, oh, you know, she catches one, I'm stoked. So it kind of built on that, and it kind of built on this friendship that we had created, and just wanting to like give other ladies or you know, people that I identify as women like that opportunity to go out. And also, we're very lucky because both of us are in this industry here on the Lower Mainland, so we have a lot of connections, and we thought, you know, let's just make a group and see if there's interest. And it just took off like wildfire. And we have, you know, women and girls that come out and fish with us, and we host trips, and we go to places that, you know, people or ladies might not be able to go, or maybe wouldn't feel comfortable with going. They're with 4 strangers, for instance, but because they're all women and they kind of have one person that, you know, we go as a host, then it kind of gives them an opportunity to do things that they may never do. And we've done, you know, fly tying courses, and we did casting lessons, and we try and offer as much information and kind of a space that's kind of free and supportive, and, you know, female focused as well.
That's awesome. That's sweet. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. I mean, camaraderie is a huge part of fishing, you know, and it's great, like, these days you're seeing social media sort of enable, like, people to connect, and like you say, like, people that might not have done it, like, get out there and fish and then become stewards of the environment and everything. Like, it's just so important, all this stuff. So that's super cool.
It is. That. And I love seeing, like, the friendships that have been created, and the people that have met together on some of these trips that now go and fish together, because now they have...
Yeah, that's such a good feeling.
Now they're friends.
Now they have a friend that they can go with, and now they're continuing that. And that was kind of the whole point, you know? And so we host these trips, and like I said, I mean, getting on a boat, you know, we take guides on a lot of these adventures, and it's nice because... You know, we did a trip a couple of weeks ago, and we go to a pretty remote river, kind of just outside of Vancouver, and, you know, it's an hour jet boat in a boat, and we take a guide with us, you know, of course, but it's one of us, and then 4 ladies. And for a lot of people, like, getting on a boat with a random stranger and to be gone all day to, like, the middle of nowhere, you're not going to do that if you don't know the person. You know?
No.
Or you're not going to feel comfortable, maybe necessarily.
They're going to feel
Super intimidating.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but hey, you know what? It's going to be 4 strangers, but it's all ladies. You know, you have a host, which is either myself or Catherine. We're here to help. We help get you set up. You know, there's no expectation for you to know anything. And we kind of do that. And it's, like I said, giving people just maybe an avenue to do something that, or get their foot in the door that they might not have or may not feel comfortable with without that. So that was the whole point, and it's been so fun. We've done some really cool trips, nothing like crazy, but we've gone to like lodges in the interior of BC. We've gone to Vancouver Island.
Awesome.
We do tons of stuff around here. You know, we've done sturgeon fishing. We took 16 ladies sturgeon fishing on the Fraser.
That's awesome.
Which was like,
did you ladies catch any?
Oh yeah, we were. It was. I swear to God, we were the loudest people on that river all day, like just screaming, and you know.
Oh, I don't know how you can't freak out with a fish like that. Like,
so.
Lose my mind.
But it's just
dope.
been fun, and it's like we've had such great trips, and it's rewarding for us because it's exactly what we wanted to happen in terms of, we said we wanted to give people the opportunity to feel the way that we did when we were fishing together, and it's happened, and it's, you know, we're able to kind of facilitate that in a way through our connections within the industry. And we go also because we've been in the industry, I know the guides that I want to go with, and I know people that are going to be comfortable with, you know, having ladies on the boat, or also just making sure that I have guides that are also very aware of, you know, like female focused also, and aren't going to say
stupid things,
stupid stuff, which
gross stuff. I've only fired
you
one.
get to kind of. Okay, well, there you go. I mean,
that's pretty.
You're on the front lines, like vetting the experiences. I mean, that's super cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And that's such a good point that you made about like springboard groups. You know, because it's like, you might have, you know, people that, like, I mean, we've kind of noticed it too with our friend Demisha's group, VGOWs. You know, we're all Toronto based, but Ontario's a pretty big province, so we've noticed little, you know, satellite, you know, community groups popping up in Ottawa and stuff, and that's such a cool thing, you know.
Absolutely. And there's one on Vancouver Island, and they keep asking, they're like, you got to come over and we'll do a big meetup. And so now we have like, you know, groups over there. And I'm like, like, let's go get like a huge group together and stuff like that. So it's, you know, it's really cool. And like I said, we're not doing anything, I don't think, revolutionary by any means, but it's just creating that kind of community. And there's other little communities out there too. And the States as such a, like, in the US, there's some really big, very well-established groups, and they're always great for like, you're like, oh, we could do this, and they're doing this, and it kind of gives you just, you know, people are looking, and there's a lot of kind of what's the word that I'm looking, like, transfer over between those, and you know, it's really cool. I absolutely love it, and it's been really fun, and I look forward to our trips so much because it's just riot.
Like it. I mean, I always felt like you don't have to be the biggest to be important. You know, and I think, like, even if you just get 1 or 2 people who look back at the end of their life and go, "That was awesome," like, that's pretty cool. Like, you're creating these really special moments. You know, so I mean, sounds dope. That sounds really cool.
I love that.
Tip of the hat to the community building. we love that stuff too. So always trying to, like, you know, just get more people to hang out with, and, you know,
and enjoy what we enjoy. Be stewards of the waterways.
I mean, you know, like we say, you know, friends is a big part of fishing trips, and I mean, you know, just a good time. Okay, Mitch's Fishes 5. We do 5 questions at the end of every episode. We ask every guest the same 5 questions. So we're going to ask you them now.
Jillian, are you aware of these?
Just 5 more questions. Just, you don't have to. It's not a buzzer beater or anything like that. You can take your time. But the first question is, what is your favorite fish and why? If you had to pick a favorite fish, what would it be?
Some people have also split this into fresh and salt. So, you know.
I'll say rainbow trout, just because I fish for them as trout. Nice. But also as steelhead, because I love just that entire fishery. from the anadromous to the resident, it's just my absolute favorite. And I love targeting them in different ways. And those are definitely my favorite. And that my heart rests with trout, whether they're rainbow trout or steelhead. That's where my heart will always lie first and foremost.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's just sure answer. I love that. It's not like, I actually kind of like tarpon, but sometimes that's me. That's me trying to answer.
I haven't tarpon fished, so I can't speak to that yet. But I think still,
isn't there a big tarpon in the shop? Is it above you right now?
Whoa.
I knew it.
Oh, there it is. You're watching this on YouTube. You can see this.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, that was my my dad's friend. Like, just quick side note. That was my dad's friend.
Oh no, please.
Way back in the day, who caught that tarpon in Florida. I don't even know when that ended up in the shop because it's just always been here. It's a full skin mount. It's a legit. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that's pretty dope looking. It's a great mount.
Yeah, it's stunning. It's beautiful. It's one of the oldest mounts we have, and it's 72 pounds, caught in Florida. But essentially, my dad's friend got it made originally, and I'm sure it was exorbitantly expensive when he got it made way back in the day.
Yeah.
And he brought it home, and his wife's like, no. My dad had just opened the tackle shop, and so he's like, hey, Dave, do you think that, this could maybe go in? So it's been on loan.
Yeah.
But I can't even remember a day when it wasn't in the shop. And then when we moved locations, because we've been in this location for about 8 years, we were just down the street. We were like, oh, what do we do with this tarpon? And we're like, make it the centerpiece. Because I'm sitting, at our cash register. Cool. It's like the center of the shop. It is the centerpiece, and it is beautiful. So
it's a really nice fish. Yeah,
for sure. Highly recommend.
I get it though. Rainbow trout makes tons of sense because it's important.
Yeah, you answered the question before you heard the question.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Okay, number 2, Mitchie's Fishies 5 is if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, assuming it's the best time to go there, where would you go and why?
Okay, I have 2. One's a little bit more basic, and then the other one, I've really always wanted to go to the Maldives and do GTs.
Yep.
Sure. Mm-hmm. All right.
That's a bit of a bucket list one. The other one, for whatever reason, if somebody says to me where do you want to go? What do you want to fish for and where do you want to go? It's pretty simple, very doable. I'm going to do it soon. I redfish in Texas on the flats.
Yeah.
That has always just hit a nerve with me where I'm like, I got to get there. I don't know why. I just specifically in Texas, I just want to go and do that. That is so high on my list of personal things that I need to do very soon that I can't even explain to you.
Jill, oddly enough, Mitch once said the exact same thing, and the next day there was an email in our inbox from who was now a good friend of ours in Texas, saying he's a redfish captain in Rockport, and we ended up doing it. So if you haven't figured out how to do it, after this podcast, we'll connect you guys. You should definitely go hang out with Matt.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
He's awesome.
That is just on my list.
It's so fun. It's so fun, and where they guide in Rockport, there's so many fish. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're gonna have to send me an email after this.
Yeah, we'll connect. We'll connect you two because that would be cool to make that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll see you there or something. Maybe we'll go together.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll get Joel. Joel went too.
Joel knows. He's been.
We'll all decide.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I mean, that's a great answer. I totally feel you. It's a pretty fun.
It's really
fun thing to do. It's so different,
really
the first time you experience it. Well, even after, it's just such a different.
Yeah, and I did GTs in Christmas Island. I didn't hook any, but I saw them, and it was literally probably the most intimidating fly fishing experience I've ever had, seeing a GT coming at me. And now I'm just so addicted to it. But I want to go to some of those rockin' places, so stuff like that.
And Seychelles.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's sick about the redfish. Yeah, we'll
great answer.
We'll connect y'all for sure.
Hundo P. Okay, number 3, which is Fish 5, is what is one of your best or favorite fishing memories of all time? One of the best.
I have one, and it's a very personal one, but it's probably the most recent memory, but it's just something that, you know, just kind of warms my heart. So this might get a little sad, but so my dad passed away in last year, and I learned everything that I know from him. Everything. This was his shop and everything like that. So he passed away, and he was my fishing partner. I worked beside him every single day. So we'd always gone up north to Skeena, and we'd done a big steelheading trip up there for a week, and you're fly fishing for summer runs and stuff like that. And so we hadn't gone in because he was sick the year before, and then we didn't go. My partner and I decided to go up this past year, so last fall in September. And so we went up there, and when my dad and I first went up there way back in the day, we spread my grandfather's ashes in a very specific place, and so I went and spread my dad's ashes in a very specific place. The first day I was there, we did that. I went the next 4 days without touching a steelhead, hoping to have this big kind of glorious moment of, spread my dad's ashes and I catch a fish right after. That didn't happen. But on the very last day, I caught my largest steelhead ever on that same river that I spread his ashes. And for me, that just wow, that's just a really big deal. And he wasn't there to see my, biggest steelhead ever, but he was definitely still there. Mm-hmm. And like I said, not a super funny story, but definitely probably my favorite memory to date now, and probably something that'll just be so far above anything else, any other fishing experience that I have in my life from here on out. So that was pretty cool.
It's beautiful.
That's an amazing memory. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, that's pretty hard to beat that, I think, such a special moment. Yeah. So that's definitely, wow. I've got lots of funny stories and lots of stuff, but my favorite, that's definitely going to sit there. As
it's a great story.
It's a great story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Love it. That's awesome. Okay, number 4 of Mitchie's Fishies 5 is simply, why do you fly fish? What do you get out of fly fishing? Why do you keep going back out to fish?
I'm a very self-competitive person, so I really strive to do things well, and I like technicality. So I like fly fishing because I like figuring things out. And so, especially when it comes to trout fishing, and that's probably why I like trout fishing so much, whether it's lake fishing or dry fly fishing, I like to figure it out. And I like really all those aspects of it that go into kind of ending up with that final result. I tend to be fairly analytical in how I think and how I kind of just operate. For me, trout fishing, whether it's what fly I'm using, what line I'm using, how my cast is laying, I didn't quite get that perfect. I like all those little things, and I really like kind of achieving something and getting that reward. So for me, I keep going back out because even though I like catching fish kind of in that bare bones way, it's kind of that always trying and always adapting and always just being able to totally admit yourself to the conditions and the task at hand. And so for me, I get really addicted to that whole process of everything that goes into catching that fish. And I like catching fish, but if I don't catch fish, I also like being okay, figuring out why. It's all those things. And once again, coming back to when you asked, who's the dorkiest? Trout.
Yeah. Totally.
Good point.
Yeah. Well, I get that. The chase, the chase of it all, and all
it's
the...
absolutely the chase, but it's also just why the chase worked where it didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Breaking down.
And I'm such a dork that way. I just love it. I'm oh, maybe I was tired and I didn't cast as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Thinking about all those things. Yeah. I dig it. I mean, that makes tons of sense.
We can relate.
Okay, the last of the Mitchie's Fishies 5, number 5 is, what fly pattern represents you best and why? If you were a fly, what would you be?
It's a good question.
Not your favorite fly.
No.
No, yeah.
You as a fly.
You as a fly.
Me as a fly.
It's a tough one. I mean, I think this is the kind of question everybody wants to get right. I've just asked so many people this question.
I love this question. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've had lots of time to think about it, but
I would say just kind of going on it, because I've always considered myself very lucky to kind of have had opportunities to be a fly angler and a gear angler and try so many different things. So, a pattern that's very versatile, I would say. I always like to call myself like a relatively versatile angler and a well-rounded angler in, I would say, my overall skill set. So that being said, I would say something like very basic but very effective can be used in a lot of different ways. Something like just like a basic like woolly bugger leech, maybe olive. Yep. So, you're either going to be, a leech pattern. Maybe you're getting picked off as a sculpin. Maybe you're getting picked off as some sort of nymph there, That's probably what I would say. Nothing crazy. I'm not showy.
I dig it.
But I'm effective.
But you catch fish.
I'm effective and versatile. That's what kind of I would, if I was a fly, that's probably how I would categorize myself.
Love it.
I love it. That's great.
It's awesome. Perfect.
The leech.
Leech.
I like
the leech. Jill the leech.
I'd be a leech. It's like, wait. I love it. That's great. Jill, thank you so much for chatting, and it was super nice to meet you and kind of hear all about your fishing life out there and
all the stuff you're working on.
And get to hear about
so much for having me. You guys have to come back. And Mitch, you got to go.
We'll come back. Yeah, Mitch, you would love it, man.
I've always wanted to go to BC, and I just don't know why I haven't yet. But
that was us last year. Yilma and I both had never been and never fished, and I never been
jealous.
to Vancouver.
It was the best.
It doesn't rain as much as people say it does. I will say that. It gets such a bad rap. The fall time when you guys were here, that September, October can be
just beautiful, right?
Stunning. I love it.
I mean, it was stunning.
Yeah, and you know what? It does get a bad rap, but also it's literally 11 degrees and it's the sun setting and it's a beautiful night out here, and we're so lucky for that. And
You know what
but
I love?
if you guys come back, you know where to come, you know who to come see, and definitely
absolutely.
For sure.
Just got to figure out how to get one of those nets home.
Jill, you know what I love?
Yep.
When I was on the river, I was seeing a lot of beginners learning how to, or taking instruction and learning how to spay cast. And I thought that was so good and so welcoming. It's such a fishing community that, you could be a beginner or a veteran and you can still just enjoy. Whereas and the river can be intimidating and everybody's a pro. But in BC, it's no, come on in. Yeah. Learn how to fish with me,
welcoming,
and then get your footing and get going. So that's one thing I noticed on the rivers, especially the Squamish. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, the Squamish angling community is fantastic. It really is something else, and it's a very open community that, like I said, you go down there, you make friends so easily down there,
right?
Stuff like that, and especially fly fishing so big.
It's curious that there isn't a fly shop there.
Mm-hmm. There was for a while, and then I think it was just kind of hard for them to get a little bit of footing. I think it'll change in the next few years, but Squamish, so many people would live in Squamish and work in Vancouver that I think it was hard for it to really establish a shop there because so many people would be coming into the city anyways. And so, I always had this really great idea of buying a food truck and making a fly fishing food truck.
See? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That. Oh yeah.
So tippet,
just needs a couple flies, the tippet.
Get that angling community to come.
Some sink tips, some
hot dogs,
some T14.
And then you would just have those things, and if you're already with an established shop, right? You just take the inventory, go up there.
Yeah, absolutely
makes sense. Or maybe a reel.
Food and flies.
So stay tuned, everybody, for the high water food truck, and I love it. You've got the Steelhead Society, you've got the Women's Fly Fishing Group, you've got High Water Tackle. Where can people get involved with Steelhead Society? How can people join the Women's Fly Fishing Group, and how do people find High Water?
So the Steelhead Society, you can go to the website, steelheadsocietybc.org, I believe, and you can join and become a member. There's lifetime memberships, there's annual memberships. The money that you pay for a membership supports any of our endeavors in terms of whether that's habitat or the projects that we support. We do actually have our annual general meeting coming up on April 29th. I believe we're going to try and be able to broadcast it via Zoom. It will be in person, which will be the first one in a couple of years now. And then as well, I usually host and maintain the fundraisers that we do. We probably won't see one until the end of this year as well, but that's how you can get involved. We've done like online, 50-50s, raffles, auctions as well. That's open to literally anyone. But that AGM is coming up, and you can kind of see what the society's been up to and what we've been supporting and stuff. Cool. As for the BC Women's Fly Fishing Group, we do have a Facebook page that is kind of the primary means through which we communicate and we talk. But for any of those that are interested, you can email bcwomensflyfishing@gmail.com, and you can get onto our mailing list there, where we send out trips and upcoming events. And then I am currently sitting in the shop at Highwater, which is in North Vancouver, and we are open 7 days a week, and I'm pretty much always here, but you can come and visit me here as well.
Cool. Love it. Awesome. All the plugs, and we'll put all the links to that stuff in the show notes as well. And thanks so much again for coming on. And
thanks so much for talking. I had such a great time with you guys. It was awesome.
Absolutely.
Oh, wicked!
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for all the advice when we showed up. It was great. It was a great welcome to. It was just a great welcome.
Yeah, and I wish the weather was a little bit better for you guys.
Whatever. We had a blast. We had a blast.
Caught my first bull trip.
We did was like switch. We just switched. Our minds from salmon to trout and had a blast.
Yeah, it was great.
And if you guys do come back, please let me know as soon as you're coming back. And we'll set something up. And I definitely want to get out with you guys, because I think we would just have a riot.
Oh, yeah. And if Texas can work out, we'll
join that too.
Yeah.
I love Texas. Awesome. Holy shit!
I want to go to Texas. I haven't been to southern U.S. and I want to go to Texas so bad, because all I want to do is go redfish fishing and do barbecue.
Yep, that's exactly where to do it.
That's the best. Yeah. It's the best. We will plan, but thanks.
Thank you guys so much.